Welcome back everybody, episode 2, the Aerosoft mini-series of a full flight tutorial from Manchester Airport in Microsoft Flight Simulator to Rotterdam. We've just pushed back, having completed episode 1, and we've got both the engines started as well. So into the flight deck, everything's set up from the previous one, and all we need to do now is worry about taxi. So, looking at the charts, we can expect Hotel, Golf Hotel Juliet, hold up Mike. Make sure you hit like and subscribe while you're here as well, guys. So hopefully you like these videos and find them all really useful. Osprey 165, request taxi.
Osprey 165 for taxi, hold about Mike 1, runway 23 right, via Golf and Juliet.
Taxi, hold point Mike 1, runway 23 right, via Golf and Juliet, Osprey 165. Brakes off. Little brake test. We get the lights on as well, so taxi lights and things, and we can start getting the aeroplane ready for departure. So continuous ignition off, APU switch that off as well as we make the turn onto Golf. And we can see that the APU is spooling down there. We can go ahead and click that button there to close the APU SOV valve. So looking at all the taxiway signs, we know if we turn that way, that would have been hotel. We weren't instructed to go that way, so we're going to continue straight ahead. We need to squawk 5662. In here, by the way, guys, if you're going to squawk,
Osprey 165,
click that button.
Just squawk 5662 for me, please.
I was just sorting that now. Thanks for reminding me, Osprey 165. So to squawk, guys, click in the box and set whatever squawk you need. There we go. So that's set. We need to turn it on. Pop that on, turn that to 1. Job done. It's not on standby anymore. It's active. Got my charts ready to go for the Samba 1 Romeo departure. So it's after departure, the 3 miles, then it's a right turn. Effectively for noise abatement. Got to follow that little line down here. And we could probably bring that range in a little bit more as well. And of course, don't forget to turn your left and right probes on as well prior to departure. Turn the radar terrain button on so we can click that button there. Of course, we don't have a terrain map yet, sadly, and we need to turn the fuel crossflow to manual, so that button just up here. And that stops the aeroplane trying to auto balance the fuel itself when we depart. So obviously we're going to rotate, and the aeroplane might try and feed fuel about when we don't want it to, causing an imbalance during departure. And crew alerting system, CAS checked. Takeoff config OK, manual crossflow, seatbelt signs, no smoking. Happy days. We're at Mike 1 now, so we should be handed off to Unicom now.
Osprey 165, nothing further, I'm afraid. Monitor Unicom 122, decimal 8, good day.
Ladies and gentlemen, the captain
Unicom 122 decimal 8 for Osprey 165, thanks to the ATC, take care. Come to a stop, we're going to change frequency there. And quick look out the window to make sure that nothing's coming, and of course on Unicom we'll announce our position too. Manchester Traffic Osprey 165, our Mike 1 departing runway 23 right, Samba 1 Romeo departure. Hot part brake off. Entering the active runway, strobes on. And we're going to depart straight away, so landing lights all on as well. And finally, thrust reversers armed. We'll line up with the runway. We need to click the button here for toga mode, and that's now changed our PFD status to takeoff. And we'll reset our view, ready to go. We spool the engines up to 40%, we don't need to stop for this. But I will make sure that the nose wheel is central before I start to apply more power. See, we've got our flight directed guidance for rotation as well. There we go, slight crosswind for us for departure. And applying power. Toga. Speed's alive. $80 knots. B1, rotate. B2, positive rate, go up. We're going to fly that crosshair until we're at thrust reduction altitude.
Manchester traffic, Air France 1980, and runway 23 right.
Now, nav mode, speed, autopilot engage. We can put the auto throttle into the climb gate, and we can turn that up as well, so we can accelerate up to whatever speed we want. We're going to target 250 knots for our climb up. And of course we would fly the constraints of the SID as well. After departure checklist then, as we're turning, we're monitoring everything. Manual crossflow back to auto. And thrust reversers disarmed, and as we're accelerating away we clean those flaps and get them back to zero, so we've cleaned the airframe up for the remainder of our journey. Don't forget, this is the only time the aeroplane will manage our speed for us. It's all down to us apart from this. So when we get altitude capture and the little beep, the little C chord in a second, which we just had now, there we go. It's down to us to manage. So when you hear that chime, we've got the throttle. So there we go. That's those done. We can get rid of that checklist now until we look at descent. Every time you turn, make sure you click in the center there and resync that heading bug all the time. And we can also get rid of that VOR. If you're going through ice, make sure you've got your wing icing on. Not sure what it's like in the sim sometimes, so better safe than sorry. And it's down to us to monitor speed, so fighting to hold that 250 knots. Now of course if we had ATC at this point, we could have got continue climb flight level 250. Climb flight level 250, Osprey 165. So we set the altitude, and then instead of vertical speed we can hit speed. Climb 242's flashing on the PFD. Pop the throttle in the climb gate, And as the aeroplane gets to the power setting that it needs to maintain that speed, the nose goes up. So let's get that back to 250 and accelerating away. And there's our position on the maps at the moment. The PFD is flashing at us because we are beyond the transition altitude now, so we need to go to standard pressure. And for that, hide the yoke and press here. By the way, if you're flying in the States and you want to get inches of mercury, you can click there and it changes to inches of mercury and back again to hectopascals. You can click in the center again to get rid of our V-speed targets. We don't need that either anymore. And don't forget to turn nose wheel steering on, because I keep forgetting to arm it. So don't fall for that. And standard pressure on the standby instrument as well. I knew I'd forgot something on the ground. Everything else is looking good as we're climbing through this cloud. Almost at 10,000. Almost at 10,000 feet now. And as we pass that, we can accelerate up to our climb speed. If you want to know what your climb speed is, click VNav, and it says there, climb target speed 290. So set the speed accordingly. There we go. Landing lights, recognition lights, wing inspection lights all off. And again we've turned, so resync that heading bug all the time. It's very much a hands-on aeroplane, but by far probably my most favourite one to fly in the sim. There we go, we're climbing quite nicely. Now one thing to note, and some people have had issues with it as well, the CRJ has got something called a supercritical wing. What that means basically, in its most basic sense as I understand it, is if you lose energy on that wing, it's very difficult to get that back. So for those of you that are climbing away, if you lose the energy under the wing for whatever reason, and you find that you can no longer climb anymore, it's because you've fallen foul of that supercritical wing structure on the CRJ. So a very realistic effect that they've added in there, and really impressive actually, because it demands that we handle the aeroplane properly at all times to fly it properly. So the solution there is to descend, get the energy back on the wing, and then start the climb again. All of your climb should be a continuous, smooth flow. So speed, acceleration and everything else. If you miss a step for whatever reason, you will find that you lose energy in the wing and then you struggle to climb away. What it's probably worth doing at the moment is checking out the METAR at Rotterdam, so EHRD, and the winds are, wow, 260 at 12 knots, variable between 230 and 310 degrees. So gusty with elements of crosswind there as well, so that's going to be interesting for us. And the next episode is going to go through all of the stuff that we need to think about and configure and prepare for when we're looking to approach the airport and come into land. We're going to configure for the ILS runway 24 into Rotterdam, which is a Sobo handmade airport. First time I'm actually checking it out, so quite exciting, and I'm looking forward to seeing how good it is. It's a very small airport with a small runway as well, so that adds an extra bit of challenge for us. And I'm going to show you guys all the things that we need to consider in the next episode for configuring for that ILS approach in the Aerosoft CRJ, whether it be the 550, the 700, the 900 or 1000 series for Microsoft Flight Simulator. Again, as I mentioned at the start of today's stream, please make sure you click that subscribe button down below and help build the channel up, and show us support, show a bit of love, give us a little thumbs up, give us a like. Altitude capture, so that's now telling us that the throttle is down to us. The biggest tip here, just before I end this episode guys, depending on what cruise altitude you're at, so if you're in the 30s, flight level 330 for example, or above, you will find that if you set an N1 around 85 to 86%, you will hold Mach decimal 78, Mach decimal A0 quite nicely without having to change everything all the time. The biggest thing in this, because there's no auto throttle, is not chasing the speed, because you'll find that the throttle, you're always doing this, trying to hold that speed. If you focus and set the N1 like I'm doing here, so around about 77-ish%, when we level off, that probably needs to come down to about 75% N1 in order to hold our speed target there. And by doing that, we could, in theory, and I do it on streams all the time, we just leave the throttle in the position that we set it at, and we can just check it, glance at it every couple of minutes just to make sure. And my little rule is, if the white arrow, which is our indicated speed, if that's at the top of the bracket for our speed target, I bring that N1 back by 0.5% or as close to as possible. If we're below, that we are at the moment, I bring it up 0.5 like I've just done, and I check again in a couple of minutes to see what happens with the speed. And that's it. I don't need to chase the throttle anymore. I'll leave it in that position, and you can see there that the primary flight display is showing that we're holding that speed target fairly nicely there, and just check every few minutes. There's a little top tip from me. Depending on what altitude you're at, the higher up you are, you're going to need a higher N1, but it's the same principle there. So make sure you join me for episode 3 coming up very soon. We're going to go through all of the approach stuff and get this bird on the ground. I hope you're enjoying the mini-series, the re-recording of, I should say. And I hope to see you come and say hello in a live stream in the very near future. In the meantime though, look forward to episode 3. Thanks everybody for watching.